Welcome back to the 6.5 podcast. We are talking about our favorite subject that we have been really pretty much talking about the whole time, the last, I don't know what, Daniel, 2.5 years, and that is AI.
That's been quite a few years, Pat. It's some date in November in 2022. I think all of us started to quickly realize that we may never talk about anything else again. Even if we love talking cloud, it's going to be cloud and AI. We like talking about PCs, it's AI PCs. We like talking handsets, it's AI smartphones. Want to talk about networking? It's not just networking, Pat. It's networking for AI. But let's be candid. In a business like ours, it sure is nice to have a news cycle moving this fast with this many companies doing this many things.
It really is. Chaos loves analysts and analysts love chaos. So let's dive in. Most of the conversation about AI has been about the data center. But as we know it, I mean, historically, it's been the case that given enough time and enough tech, compute ultimately moves to the edge. And the edge of the AI is not new, folks. Okay, everything you're doing on your smartphone, so many things that you do on your PC have to do with AI. But the entire industry is stepping up its game with edge AI, and one of those players is MediaTek. And we have PD on here for the first time. Welcome to the 6.5 Pod, PD, to talk about AI on the edge.
Thank you for having me here, Pat. Nice to have you as well with MediaTek team here.
Yeah, so let's start right there. I mean, Pat set this up real nicely, PD. AI has been quite a topic, but data center seems to be in focus. But there are a number of companies, MediaTek included, that really believe that AI at the edge has a big play. Why are you so bullish on that?
Yeah, Daniel, see, obviously there's a lot of talk and investment around AI and the gigawatt class data centers and all of that. And that's all good. You know, that's kind of a pursuit towards some sort of artificial general intelligence or super intelligence. But imagine for an enterprise, do you really care about your HR chatbot being a master in advanced physics? Probably not, right? So there's like SLMs that we are seeing now, which are more fine-tuned and tailored, and which can do the job pretty well, which are more helpful for the specific task. Now, with the types of capabilities like MediaTek and our competitors, some of them have also brought into the edge, have enabled small language models to be on the edge. If these SLMs can be on the edge and be more helpful, there is not just a benefit that a lot of people talk about in terms of latency or privacy or security and offline mode, but there's like economic incentives too. Imagine for a service provider who doesn't have to manage the capex or doesn't have to manage the infrastructure in cloud to deliver their service. When the user has the device ready, it can just use their service as you go. So the economics of doing AI on the edge actually make a lot of sense. And with SLMs, which are being more helpful now, very tailored, it makes a lot of more sense for AI to be on the edge. There's a lot more to talk about here, both in terms of training and inference, but that kind of is the high level why MediaTek believes the future is going to be with edge for AI as well, along with obviously in the cloud.
Yeah, a lot of discussion about this. And one of the things that really intrigues me is, I mean, first of all, billion parameter models being done on clients, quantization of models. I mean, full reasoning models on client. It truly is incredible. So what is MediaTek doing? How are you guys innovating to really capture this? I'll call it a new wave of on-device AI. And I always have to, we are in this second big wave. I mean, you're doing this on cameras already. You're doing this in many areas for machine learning already.
That's right. Yeah. Pat, like MediaTek is silicon first company. We don't pretend to be anything else. We aim to be the best silicon provider on the planet. So some of the things we are focused on is obviously building the best heterogeneous systems for these new class of workloads. We have the industry-leading NPUs in our devices, which go from Chromebooks to phones to many other locations. Focus on good GPUs our ARM architecture is also always on the leading edge. We have parallel instruction set as part of the ARM instruction sets that we are deploying in our systems. So other than these compute engines, we are also very conscious of like the evolving workloads, like the reasoning models or the reasoning at the edge is very memory bandwidth intensive. So the balance of memory bandwidth, memory capacity, and the compute, we are very conscious of that and making those choices when we make a silicon for a certain device. So those are our investments across the silicon space. The second piece is software and ecosystem. We have a lot of huge investments, particularly in the tool stack, working with our ecosystem partners to optimize their stack on our silicon. And an ecosystem is generally a very broad category. Our initial focus is very much on those leading software partners that we have. We have very tight partnerships with NVIDIA, with Google, and with many others who are leaders in this space and optimizing their stack and system software on our platforms. So software and ecosystem is the second one. And third one is, Pat, I think it's a little underappreciated generally. I don't know if enough people talk about it, but we actually drive very predictable roadmaps for our customers and our partners. We spend a lot of time with our customers and partners talking about what they can expect next year, 2 years from now, 2 years from now, 4 years from now. And it's not just about capabilities, it's about the cost that they can expect. They can plan their whole business around our roadmaps. So in terms of like having that conversation with our customers on how they can drive their AI journey with MediaTek, is we spend a lot of time on. So silicon, software, and ecosystem, and the predictability and roadmap is what we drive. I will say one other thing. Generally, Pat, as you know, and Daniel, as you know better than most, that silicon cycles are very long. It takes 2, 3 years to develop. 3 years ago, almost less than 3 years ago is when December 2022 was, when ChatGPT came out. If somebody was started silicon back then, they're probably still building it now, but so much has changed in the 3 years. Those choices that they probably made in December 22 are not good, not relevant anymore. Probably it's very different. What we have done in our execution methodologies and our mindset is we are very agile. We listen to the signals, we listen to our partners, we work with the industry, and we have put together a very hardware software co-design methodology in our development cycle, which allows us to be agile and respond to market trends. So we have launched some very like flagship products, which I'll talk about as well, which just 3 years ago we were not thinking about, but we were able to launch because of the way we have enabled our engineering organizations to respond. So across multiple vectors, MediaTek is kind of leading in many areas to lead in this space of edge AI.
So you mentioned partners, and one of the names you mentioned was NVIDIA, which maybe we can talk about that later. The other name that you mentioned was Google. I think when we were getting ready for this video, we were on and we were having a little bit of hiccups with some of the processing, your audio, and wasn't working, and you're like, hey, quick, let me come back. And then you came back on a different machine, which was a Chromebook, right? If I'm not mistaken. And it was like, bam, everything worked great. Now, I'm not saying bad machine, good machine. I'm saying maybe, PD, you were setting us up for this. I don't know. Sometimes people do that. But in all seriousness, talk a little bit about, how these innovations are, some of this edge AI and MediaTek are working to bring these innovations to Chromebook.
Yeah, Daniel, specifically the Chromebook I'm using right now is Lenovo Chromebook Plus 14. It has a MediaTek Companion Ultra 910 processor. When it launched, it has a 50 TOPS NPU. This machine has a 16 GB RAM, and today it's retailing at Best Buy for less than around $700 or something. In that category, it is a leading machine just purely on the specs and capabilities it has, even compared to any other OSs. It's a delightful device. It has a great Dolby sound. It has amazing camera. It's OLED screen, and it's so snappy. The moment I actually got this machine, it was up and running in less than 2 minutes. Just press the button up, connects to my phone, everything, bam, right there. But that's just the device. In terms of AI, we have partnered with Google to bring these flagship Chromebook Plus devices to market. There's this Lenovo device that I'm on right now, but we also just launched with Acer, Acer Spin 514, which is another Chromebook Plus, another leading device in this category. These are flagship devices for Chromebook, which MediaTek is the front runner in bringing to market. That is because Google believes in our not just silicon capabilities, but in our ability to execute with them and bring these great devices to market with quality and on time. We actually have lots of on-device AI capabilities on this. I mean, publicly, the ones we have talked about is image generation, and actually Notebook LM is on it too, but it's mostly on the cloud right now, but it comes on device. We also have smart grouping, smart tabs as well. Help me read, help me write. There are a few other features as well, which kind of go to the cloud for authentication, but then run on device. This is setting us up for something that I think Google talked about last week as well, is the desktop Android, or the Android coming to the PC. We are very tight partners with Google. We have a very fast growing share in Chromebooks. We are the #1 ARM-based silicon provider for Chromebooks. So our partnership with Google is set up when MediaTek will be leading in the Android-based PC space when Google comes out next year. And what that does is you have all this goodness with Google on Gemini, and all of that comes right when it's invented to the machine with Android PC, and it runs on the MediaTek processor at the launch. So no lag between phone or PC, and it's all seamless on a MediaTek processor that we are building. So our platform and silicon innovations will be kind of bringing the whole Android AI experience to market as well. So you'll see a lot new and innovative devices coming out between us and Google and our OEM partners next year as well.
Yeah. So on the device spectrum, I mean, you have kind of the IoT devices. You move into smartphones, tablets, Chromebooks, PC, and then you have this thing that NVIDIA calls an AI supercomputer for your desktop, right? Which we were talking about alliances here that you're actually working with NVIDIA to do that. I mean, it really got a lot of questions and a lot of interest, and I remember the first time seeing that. I couldn't believe how small it was. I really couldn't. Hey, can you talk a little bit about what you're doing in this space?
Yeah, no, this is a very exciting category, and we are proud to be working with NVIDIA very closely in that. The belief here is, Pat, that to my previous point, going to the cloud and doing all your model development and training is good, but at some point, when you start comparing the OpEx you have to spend in kind of setting up the cloud VMs, the provisioning before the real work is done, there's a lot of overhead in going to the cloud. If 70% of the work can be done locally on a machine that you own, you don't have to go to the cloud all the time. One would rather just do that and then go to the cloud for the rest of the production run of the training cycle.
Yeah.
So if we look at that scenario, and if it supports the same consistent software stack, which is the incumbent, which is the dominant stack in the cloud, which is the NVIDIA-based AI software stack, which is supported on Grace Blackwell today, if the same software stack runs on your desktop on this GB10 super chip that we have, well, this is a dream come true for a developer who is working on LLMs. This is actually even better if you're working on SLMs, and you don't even need to go to the cloud. Almost all of the work can be done locally here. Actually, Pat, I know you have talked about modern on-prem private AI as a huge opportunity. I know you've talked about it. And imagine when rather an enterprise, which really doesn't care about a godlike LLM, they care about very fine-tuned, specific models for their own purpose-built use cases. These machines for an enterprise, for their developers, are like the best thing that they can get. They don't need to go to a cloud to run this small training run or small fine-tuning run on a big LLM in the cloud. So the use case is that the TCO that we believe the developers will see by using something like this DGX Spark device with our GB10 chip that we have built together with NVIDIA will be a game changer. So this is the training part of the story, fine-tuning, prototyping, the training part of the story. And amazing TCO, and we believe it is a category creator, but huge growth, we believe, will be coming from this. In fact, we see market adopting it, and we see some other versions of this device coming out too from some other players, which is generally heartening to see because that validates the use case here. OpenAI launched a couple of SLMs, the 20B model, which can run on a laptop, and 120B open source model, which can run on an AI workstation. Yeah, that can run on the Spark. Actually, it's been optimized on an RTX GPU already. So we work very closely with NVIDIA for that. So that's the training piece. There is an inference angle as well to that, but we are positioning, or NVIDIA is positioning this device mostly for training at this time. So that's kind of where we are. And I think it's very heartening to see how many OEM partners have come along to build their versions of this platform. I'll add one more thing. In the Hot Chips conference, our very good friends from NVIDIA talked about our partnership and how we built this chip together. And you'll see how tightly integrated two companies work together in bringing this chip together. NVIDIA with their amazing capabilities on the graphics and AI side, and MediaTek with its great capabilities on building high performance but power efficient CPUs. Using these two capabilities together, it's a game changer. And we're very excited about it.
So let's bring this all together. A lot of great partnerships, clearly, and a lot of opportunities for what the edge can offer. And I think that certainly MediaTek is showing that it has a big commitment to seeing this play out and the growth opportunities that come with it. Another thing that MediaTek's been involved in, both in data center and for smartphones and PCs, has been going custom. And we know there's a lot of debate. Is custom needed? How much custom is needed? And this debate goes all the way from merchant for the data center to how much do we need to customize? A phone's a phone. But we all know that delivering custom is how these different OEMs are able to differentiate. So it's been a big part of your business. Talk a little bit about how you're thinking about custom silicon across the MediaTek business.
No, thanks for asking that, Daniel. I want to first say that MediaTek is in a very unique place where we have significant presence at each of these compute locations, starting from a very small edge device like a wearable to a phone to a PC, from an auto to a data center. And we don't have like small little engagements, we have major engagements across all of these. So we see the entire spectrum, and we have very, very deep engagements across the board with it. Custom silicon and ASIC is in our DNA. MediaTek prides itself in our IP portfolio, in our foundry and supply chain partnerships, in our ability to change our offerings to a customer's need, and our flexible business model in which we serve our customers in the ASIC. So that's in our DNA, and we have been using that DNA very, very successfully in the data center space. And now that DNA comes over to the edge side in this, and you see that in our engagement with NVIDIA, with GB10, on how this custom kind of engagement was done, where generally it's very hard to think of two silicon companies partnering together and getting a chip out. And Jensen talked about it. We got this chip out in the first stepping, and it's in production. So that's there. Now, the second piece I talked about custom silicon is we talked a lot about SLMs and LLMs, and there's a unique opportunity for OEMs to differentiate now in this era of AI. It's been differentiated generally based on the battery size or panel and others, but the processor and the OS is usually the same for most OEMs. Well, now with SLMs being able to be fine-tuned and new type of ways coming in to deploy these models on the device, OEMs have an option to customize their machine, their offering down to the silicon level. And that will drive better business model and monetary advantages for our customers. And we believe that's what the future is, and that's what we're going to see more and more of, to bring differentiation into this market. Actually, one of the things that we saw 2 weeks ago is inference is getting disaggregated in the cloud, right? The The pre-fill phase has its own accelerator, or rather NVIDIA Rubin CPX, which is an amazing innovation with the video transcode as well in it. Well, you could imagine the world where if inference is running on an edge device, would you want to tailor it to a certain part of the inference versus the other? And do you want to dial up the video encode versus the memory bandwidth versus the compute? So based upon the use cases, you can have different choices of silicon for your edge device, including a PC. So I do definitely believe one size fit all world is gonna shrink a little bit if the OEM has to kind of differentiate, and that DNA of building custom silicon that MediaTek brings is going to be very important in helping an OEM to get to market.
Well, PD, this was a great conversation. We appreciate you tearing through the Edge AI application, walking us through all the partnerships that you have, and of course, talking about the custom silicon business, which goes well beyond the edge, and you're doing many things. And we know you've got some great parts in the data center as well. So the story's continuing to get stronger for MediaTek. Both Patrick and I will continue to watch very closely all the things you are doing. And we hope to get you back on. We'll talk more here on the 6.5 with you as these innovations and these updates keep coming out.
For sure, Daniel. Thank you so much for the time. And thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for being part of this 6.5 webcast virtual. Here, we had MediaTek on the show. We were talking Edge AI. We were talking PCs. We talked a little data center and so much more. Hit subscribe. Join us for all of our other great content here on the 6.5. For this episode, we got to say goodbye. See you all later.